Hello, everybody. It's Stephen and Walter here for another episode of So Chatty. And today is episode number 122 for November 25th, 2023. It is Black Friday. And I just had an email from someone I know asking me if I had found any Black Friday deals. And I said, no, I wasn't really looking for any either. But here in Canada, Black Friday, not the same as it is in the States. And I'm not even sure if it's good in the States anymore.
I don't know. Even last time when I ordered a bunch of stuff, it was a couple of years ago, I ordered a bunch of stuff from Fat Quarter Shop and from Missouri Star, but I didn't really think I got any great deals on that.
And I've been inundated with emails from places like that and other places about big Black Friday savings, and it's nothing. I mean, 10% off wide backing. Really? That isn't a tremendous deal. Or some places have up to, there's the key words, up to 30% off fabric. And then you go and you check it out, and guess what? It's fabric nobody wants. It's stuff they're trying to get rid of. So I'm not finding any fabulous deals to be had. And, that might be a sign of the economy, too, right now, because, their businesses, they're hurting. Everybody's been hurting. So they probably aren't offering anything too spectacular at this point. So who knows? But anyways, I didn't find any Black Friday sales. If you guys found some that you really...
Well, the thing is, I haven't really looked at her.
Well, I haven't been that interested either, but I'm just going by primarily the emails that I've been inundated with from different fabric stores and things like that. But nothing I can say that makes me want to just go, oh my God, I got to take out a small mortgage. I want all this. So anyways, if you found it differently, if you found a bargain of the century on Black Friday, put it in the comments below so that we can feel bad for ourselves that you got it and we didn't. Okay, so what am I showing you today? Well, I finally got the Bundles of Joy, the top done, but I am not calling it Bundles of Joy. It is now Bundles to rented lips, use my words. I got a cough. Bundles of Joy / Bundles Destroyed. And if you look carefully, and it's hard in this picture to see, I know, there's a kitty. There's 3 kitties in the quilt, and next to them are clawed bundles, because kitties at Christmas time with Christmas presents, or for that matter, any kind of presents, kitties like to claw them to pieces. So there's 3 bundles there, one next to each of the kitties that have claw marks on them, which I did with my embroidery machine. Now, I've got to get this on Lucy and get it quilted. This was the second runner-up, as you know, for the 4S collaboration. It's not the main one, but I'll talk more about it down the road, because I am not going to show it to you again, at least not here on So Chatty. You may see it again next week on Idiot Quilter, same picture. I'll talk maybe a little bit more about it, because there were some problems, but there always is. And not until January when we all come together in the 4S collab to show the final versions of the quilts you voted for us to do. Okay, so Walter, what have you got to show?
Nothing.
What have you been working on, Walter?
Some bags and stuff, but I haven't. I did embroidery and did some bag construction, but I haven't got it done yet. And I was doing some more embroidery, and I haven't got that done yet. So,
well, how haven't we been protective? Well, you did go out for lunch with your girlfriends, with a bunch. What was that? The bunch you
people that I used to work with. 4 women that I used to work with. So. We went out for lunch.
And you took them all a nice little gift bag.
Yeah,
and what was in the gift bag?
And you provided a couple of gnomes and a snowflake for me today.
Yeah. Yeah. And did they like them?
Yes, very much.
That's nice. What they give you?
Nothing.
Cheap bitches. So there you go. Like, all right.
Well, usually I'm the other way around. Usually I show up at these places and everybody's giving these little gifts to each other, right? But I thought, well, I'll get ahead of the game and bring something. Turns out I'm the only one that brings stuff.
And they were all having this luncheon thing, wasn't it? Because it was also all 3 of them had a birthday this month or something?
Pretty much, yeah. Like there was Amy had her birthday, in November, and Lori's got one in December, and Anita's got one in December.
Oh, and then your birthday's in January, isn't
Yeah.
it? So you all getting together for lunch again?
No, I don't think so.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but that wasn't supposed to be why we were getting together. We were just getting together because we hadn't seen each other for a while. So,
Yeah, they just knew Walter would bring them all a gift,
oh,
and that's
who
what they
knows?
wanted.
I don't think so.
Well, whatever.
I'm just glad I didn't spend a lot of money.
I don't get, yeah. Well, you didn't. No, I did.
Oh.
No. Hey, do you think those gnomes grow on trees? No, they grow on an embroidery machine, but whatever. Okay, so that's what Walter's not been working at. Okay, so what's coming up? Sewing with Stephanie and Stephen, blah, 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 blah. Wednesdays, 9 o'clock, Eastern Time.
Blah,
Be
blah,
there,
blah,
be square. Everybody knows about that. But for the gentlemen out there, and there's not many of you, and for those that want to be a gentleman, and that is something we may have to explore further, but on another day. Men's Sew Day, 1 week from this Sunday coming, so it will be on December the 2nd, right? Yeah, December the 2nd is Sunday, starting at 8 a.m. Eastern Time in the morning. For those of you, the men only, it's a men's only club. Sorry, ladies, you are not allowed. This will be our second one, and I will send out I will send out next week an email to all the men on my mailing list for that with the Zoom link there as well. But if you're somebody that would like to join us and you're a man, you have to be a man. That's a requirement. Don't make us make you prove it. You can hook in with the link in the show notes below. But remember, it is not this Sunday. It is Sunday, December the 2nd, okay? But it's better if you got on the mailing list. You just need to send me a note saying I want to be on the men's sewing day list, and I will put you on there, and I will send you the link to your own personal email box. Okay, so something else is coming up on the same day. December 2nd is going to be busy on a Sunday. No, wait. I think I'm telling you wrong dates for things. When's December 2nd? Walter's looking it up.
Sunday, December 2nd.
So Sunday, December 2nd. Okay. So on Sunday, December the 2nd at 5 p.m. No, wait, that can't be right. I've got things mixed up here. I've got the 4S Club Live that we're doing on December the 2nd. And it shouldn't be December the 2nd. I'm pretty sure it's not, because that would interfere with our Stephen and Walter Live, and I know I wouldn't have planned it then. Give us a second here, folks, while we get things sorted out. Nope, December the 1st is a Friday.
Oh, yeah, no, Saturday, yeah.
You can't read a calendar, and I can't remember. All right, we're good combination.
Oh, yeah, right, yeah.
Let us back
December
up.
3rd is a Sunday.
Okay, so the Men's Sew Day is Sunday, December the 3rd. Okay, it's right in the show notes. On Saturday, December the 2nd at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Stephanie Stitches' channel, the four of us, Shannon, Sean, Stephanie, and myself, the 4S Club, will be doing a little sew along, and you guys can join in. It will be a YouTube Live, and we're going to be working on our quilts. Well, actually, I've got mine done. I think Stephanie might be done hers too, but we'll be working on something. But we'll be chatting about all the things that we've run into with these patterns and whatnot. So that is on Saturday, December the 2nd at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Stephanie Stitches' channel. And if you're used to watching Stephanie every Saturday at 5 p.m., this won't be any different, except I'll be there, Sean will be there, and Shannon will be there with Stephanie. So it's her usual time when she always does a YouTube Live. Okay, it's all in the show notes. All right, so today we're going to talk about, well, you saw in the title, one-offs. Lately, in this past year, there have been some new, I'm putting it quotation marks, I'll explain that in a minute, new things out there that everybody's jumping on the bandwagon to do. And I thought we would examine some of these in light of something that I just heard about. It's not really a rumor, but I don't know all the details firsthand on this. So some of you may have heard this, some of you haven't. So we're going to look at some of the things that basically sound like a good idea, but will they last? Are they things that people will return to time and time again to do? And the things I'm going to say about here are not criticism. Well, yeah, there is some criticism, but it's not criticism of anybody that's associated with it or anybody who thinks this is the best thing since sliced bread or anything like that. To each his own. Okay. So these are just our opinions about these things. Okay. So you can take it with a grain of salt or whatever you want to take it with. Possibly a big glass of booze. All right. So first thing is legit kits. Now, legit kits, I'm sure you have heard about these. If you are at all interested in foundation paper piecing, FPP, then legit kits right now is the big trend. They have these very elaborate paper piecing kits that you can buy. They're not cheap. The patterns are very, very extensive. The patterns are basically a book. That's one reason why they're not so cheap. So if you look here, here's some of their kits. They have quite a few, like the Statue of Liberty, Jackalope, Starry Night, and it goes on. But you can see the prices. Now, these prices are being quoted right now to us in Canadian because I've set up the site to quote them in Canadian. But they have quite a few. And at first glance, you go, oh, wow, like this one they call Sculliver. The car. They look fantastic. This one, look, Toasty the Dragon. And I think this is something a little different. Something that people have done foundation paper piecing forever. That isn't anything new. But these are works of art. And yeah, they're expensive. They take a lot of fabric, and you can get kits with all the fabric included with them. And in Canadian prices, they run around $300 to $400, depending. But there's so many pieces. Like, look at this one, Old School Rule. Like, see all the different colors, the little slivers in that? I mean, I would say that if I was going to do one of these, I would definitely buy the kit with the fabric in it. Because who wants to go and try and figure out the fabric that you need? And they're all very big, 60 by 80 inches for the most part. Some are a little smaller. But most of them look like this one's 30 by 40 inches. Now, do you notice this? Printed pattern only. And we heard something about this. Apparently, most of these, from our understanding, again, don't know this firsthand because I'm not interested, and I'll tell you why I'm not interested in legit kits. We had heard that the owner of legit kits pulled all the PDF versions of all of their patterns, that the only way you can get a pattern now is to get it as a paper pattern. So it has to come to you through the mail. That makes it even more expensive for shipping. Because I said, these are like a book that you're getting. We keeping you up?
Yeah. Go ahead.
I've had a busy day. Mm-hmm. Poor baby. So people in Australia and in Europe and in my country, in Canada, this makes buying one of these a lot even more expensive. I mean, you see how much they are right here now to start off in Canadian, $97. $125. That's just for the pattern, okay? A paper pattern. Now, of course, foundation paper piecing, you need to have the paper because you are building your blocks on the paper. And these are so intricate that I am sure it's taken hours and hours of mathematical genius to figure out how all these pieces are going. So, yeah, they're going to be expensive no matter what. But if you have to pay for shipping, and now that's one thing, but now they're not going to ship them. they're not going to ship these to anywhere outside of the United States. So how does somebody in Canada get one? How does somebody in Europe? How does somebody in Australia get
Oh, they're
one?
not going to ship the patterns
They're
and
not going to
stuff?
ship the patterns, is
Oh,
what I heard. Yeah, they're not going to ship the patterns.
so why are they displaying it in Canadian dollars, or does it matter?
I think that's the program they're on
Oh,
that just
okay.
automatically put it up in Canadian dollars. Now, I could have that wrong. Maybe they are going to ship them, but the problem is it's what it costs to ship them. Uh, Someone said in Australia, she looked into it, and to get one of these patterns, just the pattern alone, and the Aussie dollar is kind of like the Canadian dollar. The American dollar is much stronger against it. It was going to cost over $200 Aussie dollars just for the pattern alone. Yeah, I think that's it. They'd ship it, but it's going to cost you. Whereas before, you didn't have to worry about shipping because you could just download it and print it on your own computer. But they've removed all the digital copies. Now you're going to say, well, why? Well, that's the question I asked to the people I was talking to about this. Mainly because they're afraid that people are buying a copy of the digital downloaded pattern and then they're just copying it for their friends. Or in the most extreme cases, possibly reselling it. Too. Okay, well, that's illegal. I get that. But to turn around and become American centric, I think as a business, they are limiting themselves. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, well, this is sort of an age-old type of thing that has happened in the past. Like when video recorders first came out, they were producing movies, and there was this big thing about people copying movies from one video machine to another video machine. So then they started all this copywriting stuff and stuff like that. And the thing is that how many of those will actually be shared or whatever, in the long run? How many, if somebody's living in an isolated community in Australia or something like that, orders a legit kit, how many of her friends are she going to give it to? How many are interested in that for that, like the amount of loss that they're going to get is probably very minuscule compared to the amount of sales that they're losing.
And I think, too, that if somebody was to spend this kind of money on a pattern, they might be a little loath to, Frank, oh, can I get a copy of that? First of all, you're not copying a couple of pages. There's a lot of pages. And I've heard people say before, I don't want to print all that out and use up my ink on my printer and all that kind of stuff, which I don't blame them for that. And the other thing is, if you paid the money for it, maybe this person should be chipping in. Maybe somebody have that idea. Maybe there's a group of 10 all going in together. One person downloads it, and then they all take it off to a copier place and copy it. I don't know. It seems like a lot of work for what it is to do that. And I think that is something that, yeah, it could happen, but will it happen on a wide scale? Like,
I have my doubts.
how much into their bottom line would it eat into?
Okay, but then on the other hand, it could also be a positive thing. Let's say somebody actually did that or whatever. Somebody else sees these kits, and maybe the one they're copying is the owl or something. But somebody goes and says, "Well, I don't want the owl. I want some other one." Right?
Yeah.
And so they may make a sale on that. Like I would think that the amount of loss for copying or people sharing stuff is minimal. Like I buy PDF patterns for shirts and stuff like that too. I don't go around and run around and send people copies of my PDFs for the shirts that I've purchased. They can purchase their own PDFs.
Yeah, really. I think that they're making a mountain out of a molehill.
Yeah.
Quilt stores online and brick and mortar have to figure into their bottom line a certain percentage of sales that are lost. I know in our local quilt store, I was surprised the first time I heard this because I didn't think quilters were a dishonest bunch, but they have a theft problem. They have little old ladies going in there and just pocketing, a spool of thread, a seam ripper, a little ruler, something like that. And I said, no, you're kidding. No, they said they installed security cameras. because of that. So there are dishonest people out there. But I think that's something that most business owners take into consideration, that there's going to be a certain amount of theft, whether it's electronic theft or physical theft, and that's part of your loss. It's part of your spreadsheet here for, your profit margins and things like that. I think you work that in as best you can because it's going to happen. But is it happening on a major international scale where there's black market for legit kits? I don't think so. But this is what the repercussions of what this person who runs Legit Kits, their store, has done. They've been inundated with emails about, why are you doing this? And people are angry about it. And when your customers are angry, guess what? And giving them the answer that you're going to concentrate just on the American market and you're not going to do this again is not a good answer for people. At least that's what I was told the answer was. I didn't get it from the horse's mouth, okay? So I'm going on a little better than hearsay, but not the absolute, swear on the Bible, actual fact for that. I do know, though, that there's instructors for Legit Kits that have to do quite a bit to become a certified instructor. They've been getting emails from the people that know them as an instructor too, and they're kind of at a loss to, it's not their job to explain it, because that's the other thing. It sounds to me like people who get certification for Legit Kits are basically being trained how to be salespeople with it as well, which is fine if that's what they want to do. And I know one person who's into it in a big way, and she's excellent at it. In fact, she should go off on her own and do her own thing with this, because she's got the talent for it. She's got the creativity for it. She's got the expertise. She can have her own business, I really think. But anyways, I guess she's waiting to see how this is all going to turn out. But I think that's really kind of a kick in the face for not just customers, but for people who really believe in the product. The other thing about Legit Kits, if we bring it back onto the one-offs, okay. First of all, I'm not interested in doing them because I'm not that interested in foundation paper piecing. I have tried it, not on the scale of a Legit Kit, but to me, is it quilting? I don't know. I guess it's a form of quilting. It's art quilting.
It's a form of sewing, I guess.
Yeah. I think it's more sewing than quilting myself, but I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying anything against it. If that floats your boat and you love doing it, do it. It's still a creative art. But how many of these things do you need? They take a long time to make, from what I hear. I know one person who's a regular on Sewing with Stephanie and Steven and on my pop-up sew days. He's done two, both the same. I think he did the Raven on here, or is it the Crow? I think, whatever they call it. But he's done two of them, and he says, no more. I'm done. And it sounded to me like he didn't really enjoy the process. He found it a little bit tedious, and it took a lot of time, and there were a lot of pieces. Some people love that. There's people who do little mini quilts, right? 1-inch squares and that kind of thing. So, I'm not one of them, but again, whatever floats your boat. But my prediction for this company, unless they do something radically different, I have a feeling that this is this time next year, they'll just be a memory.
Yeah, Steve told me a while back about Legit Kits, and I heard it was foundation paper piecing, and I thought, whoa, that's something I've never done. I'd be interested in maybe trying that out, right? But then I looked at what was offered in the kits, and yeah, there's all kinds of neat little pictures and stuff like that you can produce in that. But I don't have a ton of wall space. So, I mean, how many of these would I want to do, or even are there any patterns that I really would want to do? And from what I've looked at there isn't really anything that really grabs me to do. I'm would been more into doing something like an abstract of some sort rather than a picture of something.
Yeah, and take a look at this. Printed pattern only on everything.
Yeah.
Except these ones right up here. I don't know why.
Well, the jackalope might be something that is interesting to Australians because isn't that where jackalopes are?
There is no such thing as a
Oh,
jackalope.
okay.
It's a
I thought
rabbit
it
with
was.
antlers on it.
Oh,
No.
I thought there was a such thing.
In fact, I think it's also a myth
Oh,
that
okay.
comes from. No.
All
Want to
right.
buy some swampland in Florida? I wonder why these ones, though, right here at the beginning, they don't say print it only. There's about 9, 10, 12, 15 of them. But all these other ones after that are
Yeah,
all
it's a mythical American one.
Yeah, see, I told you.
Yeah.
So I wonder why these ones are all of those and those ones are not. Or they just haven't got around to putting that on it yet.
Who knows?
I don't know. Kind of weird. Kind of weird. Or maybe after they had this very violent outcry against this, maybe they decide to offer some of their patterns.
Yeah.
So if you go into it, pattern contains foundation paper.
Oh, I see. The jackalope has optional antlers, so you can take them off. So they'd be more like a bunny.
Bunny. This is a quilt top pattern only, knowledge foundation paper. Okay, so I'm just looking here to see if this tells you, by the looks of things, you're ordering this as a paper pattern. It doesn't say
anything about downloading.
Oh, wait, here. Patterns contain the full pattern. No, this quilt is top pattern only. Knowledge required. The basics of paper piecing, explaining short. Your kid as well as further learning this exciting technique. Huh. Unless all those other ones that are marked that way were older ones, and now these are new. No, those other ones I think they've had around. Interesting. I don't know why. I may have to ask my friend who's an instructor for them as to what she knows
click
about.
on where it says patterns.
Well, that's where I was.
Oh, okay.
How's that?
These patterns.
You see, there's about this many here, and here they're really printed pattern only. From there on, all the rest, well, that one's not. Those two, but all the rest of these are all printed pattern only. So I'm confused. I don't know what that means, really. I just know it caused a whole uproar about this with the company, and I really think that people will be fascinated. They'll look at it, and they'll either be like you, completely intimidated by this and never want to try it, or decide, hey, I'd like to give this a go, and I've heard about this company, and I'm going to get one of their patterns, and I'm going to spend the money, and I'm going to try because I really want to do, oh, this is it, Edgar the Raven pattern. But that they really want to do it. But I think after they've done one of them, they might think twice before they do a second one. Maybe not. It depends. I guess if you really love it, I suppose you will.
I suppose if you really want to do like an animal pattern or something like that, or that, then yeah, that would be an interesting thing. However, for me, I don't really want to do an animal pattern or something.
And a lot of them are that, or a lot of them look like a piece of art, like the one with the wine and things like that. Okay, so fine. You got a place in your house that you decide one of these would look really good on, but they're big. 60 by 80 inches. You need some big wall space to put that on display. So I don't know. I don't know what kind of person wants these. And in my way of thinking, I don't see this as being a business that's going to grow. Like it's...
No, because how many of these would you want hanging around your house?
Yeah, I know. Well, put it this way, people could say the same thing about quilting them, but yeah, you don't hang them around. But yes, you could give these away as a gift. But I think
it's a really nice gift.
Yeah, really nice gift. The person's got to be really worthy of this kind of thing. So I don't know. It's kind of controversial. Let's see in a year's time where they are at. Another company that's kind of, well, not really on the same line, but very much popular in this past year. It's been going like whiz bangers, and I've done one of them as well. And it's the Art East Quilting Company. They're a Canadian company out the East Coast, and they're cute. They're whimsical. And there's a lot of them. And they're kind of fun. And I did this one, the cat scratch. I thought that was really cute. And there's quite a few here, and some of them are not necessarily about animals or figures or things like that. They do have some that look like a quilt, like a, like that one. They don't have a lot like that. They have a very modern feel to them and the whole bit. However, they're a little bit more reasonably priced. They are digitally downloadable, the pattern. You can get kits, and they even have a club that you can join. It's sort of like a block of the month club where you can work along and do this. This is not paper piecing. This is patchwork, which I kind of like that it's patchwork. However, I'll tell you why. I have another pattern. It's called blowing up bunnies, which is I thought was really comical. I bought it as well. I don't know where it is here. It's here somewhere. You probably have seen it because these are all these guys right here. Digital blowing up bunnies. I think that's funny. When am I going to make it? Well, after I finished making the cat scratch one, I kind of went, okay, I'm tired now. There's a lot, and I mean a lot of little pieces and a lot of cutting in this. In fact, I thought the cutting was never going to end. These are not something you're going to do in a few hours at all. These are going to take you some time. But they are different. They are funny. They're cute. There's a lot here that would be great as a gift for a kid. That kind of thing. They make neat wall size, like wall hanging kind of things as well. However, here's another one that's more like a quilt. Like a traditional quilt. This one too, as well, which looks very intricate. That looks like it's going to have a whole lot of little pieces. I think they're very creative. I think John, who's the owner of the company, I think he's very, very talented in terms of being a graphic artist and things like that. But this is another one, I think, over time, people will do one, but I'm not sure how many more they're going to do. Now, having said that, I know some people who are completely love these, completely. And like Sean, the guy who sews, he's done several, and he absolutely loves them.
See, I would think that these would stick around longer than the legit kits.
And why is that?
Because I think there's lots of other companies that produce applique patterns and stuff like that, and they hang around for a long time.
Yeah.
Look at the what do you call it, the sunbonnet suit or
yeah,
whatever,
true.
And stuff
it's
like
a classic.
That. And so you may have ones that come and go for this one, but other ones that hang around that people might see, oh, I'd like to do that or something like that. I think it's a different kind of thing than like the paper piecing thing.
Well, I would agree with that. This is quilting.
Yeah.
This is quilting that's here. And they're not hard to put together. It's the cutting. My biggest criticism, but I don't know how you'd get around that, is because the designs are fairly intricate, is the cutting. There's a lot of cutting. But I think these will stick around. The other thing that I think John does well is he comes out twice a year with a whole bunch of new designs he's been working on. So he's constantly has more things to choose from. Now, Legit Kits has a lot to choose from too, but they all are kind of the same thing. They're a picture of an animal or of a still life or something, and they all have the same look about them. What I mean by that is it's angled pieces of color sewn together. Whereas this, I think there's variety within each one. There's variety in it. So I don't know. But I think if I had to put the two up against each other, and they are different formats of quilting, so maybe it's comparing oranges to lemons or something like that. I think Art East Quilt Company has a better chance of hanging around longer than, say, Legit Kits. Also, from what I've heard, John's customer service is very, very good too. Now, at one point in time, I thought someone said he didn't ship to the States, but that's not true anymore. He does. And, he has it in digital format too, so you can get just the pattern. You don't have to have a kit. You can get the pattern. They tell you what the fabrics are that you can use for it, and you can pick your own colors and things like that, just like on any quilt pattern. And I was going to see, I think I looked up shipping. Yeah, I did. And US, free shipping on orders of $115 Canadian. And if it's under that, then weight-based calculated shipping for it is $114.
And what are the price of the patterns usually at?
Well, the patterns alone are very, very reasonable. Let's go back here. $28, $18,
yeah, okay,
$22.
So something like that. You get it in digital format, right?
Yep.
Those things don't tend to be shared around a lot because they're a small amount of money. Sometimes big patterns like the legit kits that have that are intricate, that have a lot of if it's a PDF pattern, if it's an expensive PDF pattern, yeah, they might be shared a bit more because they're expensive.
Well,
but if somebody buys like a $20 pattern, people wouldn't probably think twice about buying a $20 pattern.
And the other thing I just thought of with legit kits patterns, because I heard someone complaining about this, when you print them out, you have to make sure that your printer is set up to print actual size, because, and you know this from sewing, if most times your printers will default to fit on page, and that throws the whole sizing and everything out in something like that. Something like this one of Art East Company, you don't have to worry about that.
Okay, yeah, well, why?
Because it's just the instructions.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It doesn't matter what size you printed out at, because you don't have a template.
Or you don't have a thing that you template that you have to.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I get that,
Yeah. Because these are not applique. These are
if you buy a shirt pattern, you usually have a box on the front of your two boxes usually at the front of your first page of your pattern. One's in inches and one's in centimeters. And basically, the whatever size page you choose to print, usually you have to print on actual size, and you have to take that first page and measure the box. It'll be like 2 inches by 2 inches, and make sure that the size you're printing out matches that box size, right? And then you've got the right size for the pattern. So, I mean, because like on shirt patterns, you paste them all together, and you're looking at a specific size. So you want an accurate size.
Also, foundation paper piecing for somebody who's never done it before the first time, it's very easy to get screwed up with it. If you're like me and you're geometrically challenged, getting your pieces to fit. The few that I've ever done, and I've never done a legit kit with it, but like simpler ones that I have tried, I always end up cutting the piece of fabric too small, because you got to take into consideration that you have to fold it over, and it has to go over lines and for it all to fit. And I think for somebody doing it the first time, and if they start with a legit kit, they can get very frustrated very fast. However, there are videos on how to do them, and there are these certified instructors now that are trying to arrange for things in quilt stores and things like that. So, there is resources to help you, is basically what I'm saying. With something like this, John, if you run into a problem, you can actually email John and he will answer you. But the instructions, at least from the kit I did, which was this cat scratching, they were very easy to follow. Very easy. Like I said, the only thing I didn't like was how many bloody little pieces I had to cut. There were a lot. So I think this one will stay around for a while. Legit kits, we'll see. And just a reminder here, I am not cutting up these companies. I am just sharing my opinion, and I'm looking at it from a wide viewpoint, okay? I'm not saying nay or yay to any of these things with it. So, okay. So let's look at some other ideas here, like kits in general, quilting kits. Now, they don't have kits for sewing garments, do they?
No, not as far as I know. But on garments, really, like you get a shirt or a pair of pants or something like that, you're usually only using one fabric
Yeah.
or two fabrics. You might make a color, a different color, or something like that. And but you have to also consider a specific size
Yeah.
for a pattern. Like you may get a pattern that's like the shirts will be like from small to triple extra large or something like that.
These are small.
And yeah,
Well,
right.
actually, this isn't one of yours.
But you know, like so you have a pattern that has various sizes incorporated, and so really it's just your pattern that you cut out and instructions on how to sew it together.
Yeah. Well, for quilting, there's always been kits around. And I have bought many kits. And usually I buy a kit because I see a picture and it comes with all the fabric and that. And I think to myself, I like the final product that they're showing. I like the fabrics that's in it. I'll get the kit because it comes with all the fabric. I don't have to go and pick out all my fabrics for it and do that kind of thing. And that's a plus, I think, because you know everything is going to go together and you have it here. But the negative of it, and this has happened to me on more than one occasion, and depending on where you get the kit from, if it's a kit that's been set up by an actual quilt store themselves, and oftentimes quilt stores will take a pattern and they've got ends of bolts and they'll put together their own color scheme for that pattern and they will cut up the amount of fabric that's needed. They won't cut the actual pieces, but they'll cut the fabric that's needed for each color. They put it in a kit, and then you have it all there. Well, I've had more than one of those kind of kits that I've been shortchanged on the fabric. And I'm sorry to say it, but some quilt stores are extremely cheap when it comes to cutting the fabric. They do not allow for the fact that you might make a mistake. So, and there's one particular quilt store in my area, not one we go to very often. It's north of us. Their prices tend to be on the upper scale, and I have bought several of their kits, and that has happened to me with almost every kit I have ever bought from them. The first time it happened to me, I thought it was my error, that I had done something wrong. The second time it happened to me, it was not my fault. It was their fault. So I'm a little loath to buy their kits in the future. The other thing about buying kits is that it doesn't allow you to do your own thing. Yeah, basically, you're making what you see is what you're going to get, you hope, if everything's been cut right and whatnot. And if that's fine, if you like that. And kits are great for people who are, confident beginners, because everything's in a nice little package for you. And so you don't have to worry about, as I said, picking your colors and all that kind of stuff, because some people are, they're very intimidated by having to do that. But if they don't have the right stuff, if they don't have enough of it, then you get burned. For example, I just talked about Art East Quilt Company, and I bought the Cat Scratch one. And I bought it as a kit at the the Canadian National Quilt Show in Halifax in the spring. They shortchanged me on one of the fabrics. I was able to get around it with what I had in my stash, but that wasn't, I don't think the Art East company put the kit together. It was put together by a different quilt store. They had the pattern. They pulled fabrics off of their supply that were close to what was recommended in the pattern, and they shortchanged me on one of them.
And didn't they have extra fabric?
Yes, they did in the other. And then I looked at it and said, okay, did I mix up my fabrics? Because I thought, I blame myself first. I do not blame the product. I always blame myself first because I am known for making mistakes. Okay? I'm not perfect. If you haven't figured that out yet, I don't know where you've been. But I double checked and triple checked it through when this happened to me. And nope, it was the fault of whoever packed the kit. But as I said, it was a little frustrating, but I was able to make it work, because I have enough stuff in my stash that, work fine with it. No one would know. But it's frustrating when that happens to you. Especially, I know people sometimes buy kits to take to retreats, and they don't open them up until they get to the retreat, and then they go halfway through working out, they go, uh-oh, and then you're screwed a little bit at that point, because you probably can't get more of the fabric at that point in time at the retreat. Anyways, that's some of the downfalls of quilt kits. As a trend, they've been around forever. I don't think that's ever going to end. People still enjoy quilt kits. My problem is that I have a rack of them.
Now, sometimes I would imagine people might buy a quilt kit for somebody else for a present or something like that.
Yeah, that could be. Now, that would be bad, though. If my recommendation would be, if you're giving a quilt kit to someone who is not an experienced quilter, you might want to find a kit where you can get more of the fabric sets in there, and you might want to buy a half meter or quarter meter extra of each one of the fabrics, not because necessarily they're going to get shortchanged. They may make a cutting mistake.
Or they get some kid that goes into a store and says, "Oh, my mom quilts. I want a quilt that looks like this." Buys her the kit.
Yeah, well, that's a possibility. The other thing, too, is sometimes quilt kits have been sitting on the shelf for a long time and you can't get that fabric anymore. So when you're buying a quilt kit, you might want to consider looking at what the fabrics are that come with it, and if you can find what they specifically are called, like take the pattern out of the kit. They'll do that for you in most quilt stores. They can open up the package because they got this sticky resealable thing on, and they can reach in and pull out the pattern, and you can look at it and you can see the name of the fabrics that they're using in it. And, you can tell from that, well, you just say to them in the store, do you have more of this fabric? Because you get halfway through the quilt project, find out that you're short for one reason or another of a certain fabric in the kit, and then you try and get that fabric, and you can't get it anymore. And yeah, that kit's going to end up on the UFO pile because you're not going to finish it. You're just going to get angry with it. Okay, so other trends. All right, this came from, they had Quilt Market not too long ago down in the States. Where's it? Houston, I think, I think it's Houston, someplace like that. And everybody was all abuzz about this. And this has been going on for a couple of years now. And that's quilted clothing. Now, this is where quilting and the sewing world, garment sewing world, kind of mesh together because there's different ways you can do this kind of thing. What some people do is they have patterns. You can see here they have patterns for doing quilted vests and jackets and things like that. These are not quilts per se. You're making them from scratch. So you're basically fashioning a garment in a quilting style. You're making your layers of fabric or whatever they do with it. I'm not even sure if in some cases this is actually truly a quilt sandwich that's being cut up. I have a feeling what it is it's patchworked pieces that are then lined. What would you say?
In some cases it is. Some cases it may be a quilt that they've cut up, but I think a lot of times in like some of these examples that you're being shown with like triangles and things like that they specifically try and format whatever they've got into a pattern, into a pattern piece that's a piece of clothing, and then layering it and quilting.
Yeah. Now, then there are some people who actually take a real quilt and cut it up and make it into a garment. Now, about a year and a half ago, Mary Fawns, as in Fawns and Porter, Mary Fawns got onto YouTube and she just tore a strip off the quilting community for anybody that was taking a quilt and fashioning it into a garment. She said that was sacrilege. You shouldn't do that. And what she was really getting her upset was people were going to taking what she called vintage quilts that had either been around in the family for a long time or people found them at yard sales or at charity shops, and they were refashioning them into quilted vests or quilted jackets. And she said that that was horrible, horrible, horrible. She got a lot of backlash about that. A lot of people said, well, wait, if you find a quilt at a charity store and it's worn or it's stained, then why not give it new life as a garment rather than it getting thrown out? And I think some people's philosophy was, if it's beyond being repaired to be used as a bed quilt, but there's enough of the fabric that's not damaged that you can refashion into a garment, why not? It gives it new life. And you want to know something? I don't get uptight about either way of doing it. If you had a UFO laying around, or you had a quilt that maybe was one of your first quilts and you just hate it, or things went really wrong with it, but you didn't want to throw it out because you spent a lot of time with it, you just hate it, why not make it into something you like? Make it into a jacket, a vest.
Well, you got to remember, it's just cloth.
Fabric. Yeah, it's just fabric and thread.
And for you to say, oh, well, you shouldn't cut it up and it should, what are you going to do with it? Put it in a museum or something like that? There's only so many quilts that'll end up in a museum. And eventually, over eons and eons, those quilts will disappear because they will basically disintegrate.
Well, I don't agree with taking a quilt that may be of historical significance.
Right. No.
No, that should be restored, preserved, that kind of thing, because it's a piece of history. But some old junk flea bag, 9-patch quilt that ends up at Value Village.
Yeah, that somebody's discarded.
Yeah. Somebody used it. It got its time. It's worn. Now give it new life. So I don't see anything wrong with that.
And then there's also the one that you like. I mean, you make a quilt specifically for making a garment. I mean, that's not doing anything to it. I've thought about that, but I don't know how to do garments, and I don't. Well, I have thought of it, but maybe down the road I haven't thought. I think quilted jackets are more something women like to wear.
Well, yeah, I was going to say too. It tends to be more of a woman's thing with it too. But I have purposely done a quilt sandwich. I have put my fabric, my top fabric, my batting, and my bottom fabric all on my long arm, and I've quilted a design across it, and then I do a huge big chunk of fabric, and I cut it up, and I make it into tote bags. It's quilted, but it makes great quilt bags, but that's what specifically I'm doing with it. So, and I know that there are people right now, there's lots of people out there making tote bags and other things, and they do the patchwork first. I mean, I'm taking a large chunk of fabric that hasn't been quilted for the tote bags and just quilted. Mm-hmm. It's not patchwork. But I've got all kinds of scraps that I want to put all together, make big long piece of fabric out of it with just scrap quilt kind of a thing, and cut it up and make it into some tote bags or a bag by Annie or something like that. I think it'll look great. Adam Sews does it. And his bags turn out beautifully with that. So there's lots of patterns. So, if it gives new life to it, if it keeps the stuff out of the landfill and that, I'm all for it. And I think that trend is going to continue because it's called sustainable quilting. That's the new term for it, where people are trying to use every bit of the fabric around and not get rid of it, and for all kinds of different purposes. Pillowcases, pillow slips, car blankets, dog blankets, kitty blankets, whatever, coats, quilts, everything. So I think that's a type of trend that's going to be around for quite a while. So another thing, though, about trends is fabric painting. Now, this is more into the thing where people want to get into the more art quilts, as they call them. And there's all kinds of different types of fabric pen and fabric markers you can use to make basically your own fabric for something. Now, I have played with this, but I haven't done anything serious with it. I find it a little bit tedious. I'm not an artist. Like, you can see this one picture. Oh, sorry, I didn't put it up there. You can see this one picture there. There's a paintbrush. She's filling in stuff on the fabric, and then people want to know, well, is this washable? Well, they are, but I don't think you'd really want to. I think this is more for quilts, small quilts that you put on display, art quilts, wall hangings, that kind of thing. But a lot of people are getting into it because, and they're adding other things. They're adding beads and buttons and other things, embellishments to them. So it's basically a form of mixed media. And it does appeal to me, but I haven't really, I have done it. I have done a little bit, and I have some pieces that hang up here in our house that I have done. But it's not something that really floats my boat. I really like to piece. Now, what about clothing, though? You want custom clothing?
Mm-hmm.
You could paint fabric in a certain design or whatever and use that to make shirt.
Yeah.
I mean,
Might
it
be
would.
kind of stiff, though. I don't know.
Well, the fabric paints actually do soften up when
Oh,
you
do they?
wash them.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
if the right ones.
Yeah.
That you can get, and they're always improving
Yeah.
them. But, if you wanted something really unique, really custom, you could get into
Yeah.
that. I mean, personally, I can't see us doing it because I think it
Yeah.
it
I'd
takes
have to
a lot
think
of
of
time
an application where I would want to do something like
where
that.
you'd want to do a design.
Yeah.
I think somebody who's an artist.
Yeah.
Or,
Like if you scroll up a little bit, you're like, they've got like ladies' blouse with
yeah,
this,
customized.
yeah.
And they're showing here using like stencils. If you
Yeah.
can't do freehand, this one down here in the corner where she's going around with it on the brush,
Yeah.
kind of a thing. Yeah, it could be really interesting
Yeah.
if you had a specific application. I think some people who are actual artists and that they do this
Yeah.
kind of thing, I'm sure their creations cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know how much of a lucrative business you could make out of
Yeah.
that. But there are some famous artists who fabric paint as well. That's one thing. And another kind of thing is people wanting to print fabric at home. Now, there's spoon flour, right? Everybody pretty much knows what spoon flour is. You can put up a design, your own design that you've done on your computer. You've used Photoshop or something like that for it. Or I have done it myself when I used to do art journaling. I scanned some of the pages of my art journals and I turned them into fabric. And I actually put those into quilts, a couple of quilts. The only thing is the spoon flour fabric, as we have found, is a little funny.
Well, maybe if you pick, there's a different kind of cotton you can get as well.
Yeah.
I got the basic Pima cotton that they have, and it's a bit what I call a rougher cotton. It's not as I don't think it has as high a thread count as regular quilting cotton because it's rougher,
Right.
and the weave is a little bit more open. There is a more expensive one that you can get where I think the weave is probably a little bit more tight, but it's a lot more expensive.
Yeah, it costs you a lot more for it. But if you needed something that you want it, for example, you want to have a family photo or something
Yeah.
on it, you can do that. But you can also do it at home on your inkjet printer.
Yeah.
There's special fabric you can get that'll go through, like I'm showing you here a picture that is the right size for your inkjet printer, and you can put it in. And then I think you just apply an iron to it afterwards, and that heat sets it. And now they are washable. You have to read about
They do
it.
feel like they're almost like have a waxy coating.
Yeah,
on
they
it.
feel a little bit stiffer because, well, basically you're putting ink on top of fabric.
Yeah.
And there's other methods you can do too. And I've tried a few of those, and they do work. But if you're making a memory quilt or something and you wanted a picture of, your great grandparents from an old photo you had, you can do that. You can do that. So it's there. And that's something that I don't think it's so much a trend. I think it's when you want something really special because it's a memory kind of a thing, then you might go for this kind of thing. Okay. So I'm now going to talk about something that is referred to by Peter Burns, who invented this method of quilting, called hover quilting. Okay, I took a workshop during COVID online with Peter Burns to learn how to do this, and it works. It turned out it's something a little different. His style is very modern, but he totes it as something that's new under the sun. Essentially what it is, well, in his words, he describes what hover quilting is. And he says, hover quilting is a different approach to raw edge applique. This innovative technique produces not only a beautifully controlled frayed edge, but also creates the illusion of your piecing hovering above the quilt top. I don't understand that. I didn't get that from the piece that I created. Maybe I didn't do it right. Traditional raw edge applique uses fusible web to permanently attach and hold down your applique unit. With hover quilting, all the diamond units will be temporarily basted using a non-permanent wash-away glue stick. Okay, so instead of putting stuff down with fusible web, like something like steam-a-seam or whatever, you're using a glue stick. Well, people are using glue sticks to base their quilts these days, so this isn't anything really revolutionary. Washable glue sticks. In addition, the construction of a hover quilt is different, as a hover quilt has 4 layers: the backing, batting, quilt top, and the 4th layer is everything you temporarily base and applique to the quilt top.
Well, isn't that the same as regular applique?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Because you're putting a piece of fabric on top of a piece of fabric.
Yeah. That's what I mean. This isn't anything new. When you zoom in and look closely at my hover quilt, you'll see a beautiful frayed edge that creates a texture not seen with traditional piecing. This technique allows for complete freedom of composition, as you can take any shape and applique it in this unique way. Well, wait. What is unique about this? You're sticking down a piece of fabric where you have not done like a needle turn applique.
Yeah.
Any kind of applique you do that is raw edge will fray, unless for some reason you're able to bind the edging, meaning, using a blanket stitch or a zigzag or a tight zigzag, which is known as a satin stitch. Because if the edges of your fabric are peeking out over time, it's going to fray.
Mm-hmm.
Unless it's batiks, that kind of thing. So this isn't really new. When you zoom in, okay, like this technique allows for complete freedom. Okay, wait, all right. So yes, okay, so you're getting this effect. He does sew it down though. You go around, you sew it down. He's done a little bit of quilting kind of a thing, design on it. Okay. But look how frayed and jagged. Now, personally, I don't like that look. To me, it looks like it's worn, it's been used. But some people do like the look. It is a different look. And as I said, he does art quilts. But I'm thinking, well, there was a form of quilting that was done for years and years and years, way before this. And it was called rag quilts.
Yeah.
And here's a picture of a rag quilt. Well, wait. That's pieces of fabric where you have frayed edges. You didn't finish the edges. In some cases, now one thing that is different about a rag quilt, in some cases they'll make little slits. They'll stitch the piece down, but they'll leave a 1/4 of an inch of the fabric. Instead of having a 1/4 inch seam underneath, the seam is on the top, and they put little clip marks in it, as you can see with scissors. And over time, as it's used, as it's washed, those fray out a little bit more and give you this raggedy look.
Isn't that just more like, that's not like an applique quilt?
No, that's not applique.
That's like turning your quilt upside down. And
Yeah, exactly. And they define it. This is, since the 1700s, quilters have been turning old clothes and leftover fabric scraps into quilts, rag quilts more specifically. Rag quilts differ from traditional pieced quilts in a number of ways. They highlight the raw edges of the fabric. They're typically composed of simple squares instead of triangles and more intricate designs, and they often use non-traditional fabrics such as denim or flannel. Rag quilts come together quickly as well.
But isn't like the one Peter Burns talking about, the hover quilting, more just like raw edge applique, and that you'll keep washing it and it keeps fraying.
Yeah, but so do these.
Yeah, I know.
So the thing that makes them look a little different is the fraying.
Yeah,
I think in both cases, and if you like that look. But what I'm saying is, he's making something that he has created sound like a trend. This is new. It is just a variation on a theme, and it's not that much of a variation on it. what makes his unique is probably his art quilt background, because the way he puts his shapes and things
Yeah.
together. If we go back to the picture of his, you see like this one,
Yeah.
like that's a spectacular looking quilt.
Yeah. Well, but the thing is that I'm sure there's other people that have done that sort of thing in the
Oh
past.
yeah, there's others. If you watch, I subscribe to Quilt TV, the Quilt Show on that, and they've had many guests on. They're showing things that are similar to this.
Yeah.
It is another technique.
Yeah.
Personally, it is not a look I like. And this quilt is like, if you look at it close up, I don't think he's got a picture of it close up here. No, there isn't. Well, here are parts of it that are close up. Will they blow up? There. Now, you see, when you see it up closer, I think it looks like it's worn. And if you
Yeah.
like that distressed look, fine, but I don't.
I don't mind it.
Of course you don't. It's different. Well, you
Yeah.
make one then. Why
Yeah.
could you give your hand at it? I have. Small one. Um, yeah, it's something a little different. Whether it is a trend or not, I don't know.
But I mean, over the years, like I worked in computer industry and that, and people will take an old idea and put a new spin on it and call it something. They give it a
Yeah,
name,
that's true.
right? And then they present it as if it's something new all over
Yeah.
again.
And the
So
same thing happened in education all
yeah,
the time with the trends that are there. Nothing is new under the sun. It's just a variation on a theme.
yeah,
So there you go. Well, another thing here, and this one is, this has been around for a long time. T-shirt quilting. I don't wear T-shirts, so I don't have any to make into a quilt. And
well, the t-shirts I wear don't have any sayings
yeah.
on it.
Well, this is more for the people who collect T-shirts. They go to concerts or special events, or they're ones about something like Harley Davidson's or whatever. They have these T-shirts. They do wear them, but T-shirts are T-shirts. They get worn with time. So as a way of, they're a memory quilt. They're basically a memory quilt. And, you're putting the front of the T-shirt into a quilt. They're not particularly, they're a little bit time involved to make, because you have to, because of the fabric.
Interface them.
Yeah, you have to interface them. And then you have to be very creative with the way you cut them out too, because they can be different sizes. Like, take a look like this one. They've added some piecing pieces into it to get everything to fit, which is fine. I mean, it's almost like in a form of scrap quilt, or what I'd call an orphan block quilt as well. I have no desire to make one because I don't like T-shirts.
Yeah, I think you can get some people just do straight t-shirts in rows and stuff. But I personally think that the ones that are like more done like a collage are more interesting.
Yeah, I think like this one, I think is a really interesting quilt. The way it's all been laid out. But, they're memory quilts. And sometimes people want them because, well, it may have been for a relative that has passed on, and they want a memory of them. So they've taken their T-shirts or things like that, or pieces of their clothing, and made them into a quilt. And that's not really a trend. I think that's something that will always be there. People will always want to do that kind of thing. I have no desire to make a T-shirt quilt. Well, I don't have any T-shirts to make it. But I know a lot of people love it. So, if you love it, do it. Okay, so those were just some things that we've observed over the last little while we want to talk about. And this whole discussion about one-offs all happened because of what I heard about the situation with legit kits. Mm-hmm. Because you can't go anywhere now without hearing about that as well. And I just want to tie it in with a few other things here too. So that's what we did today. Don't have any real comments this week from the past week's video to share with anybody. But if you do have comments about today's or anything else, do put them in the show notes below. And I like to go through them at least once a week. And I try to answer back if there's ones that constitute an answer. And sometimes share some of the good ones, or the ones that I think people should take note of here on the episode. So none this week, but maybe next week we'll have some. But then again, I don't know what we're talking about next week. Ideas? Somebody did give me an idea. I almost thought about doing this week, but might do it next week. They wanted to know how my sewing room is set up technologically. What are my technical things in our sewing rooms and how to use it? And I got thinking about it. Yeah, there's a lot of technology where we're sitting right now around this room. So maybe we'll do an episode on that. Let us know in the show notes if you'd be interested in seeing how I use technology in my sewing room. Not always necessarily to do a quilt, but if it's a piece of tech, I love it. Walter does too. He's a technophile as well. Okay, so that's it for this week. I hope you're enjoying your weekend, the Americans on Thanksgiving and Black Friday and all that kind of stuff. And then guess what? Ho, ho, ho. It's time to decorate. Ooh, I hate decorating. Okay, we'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Bye for
Bye-bye.
now.